Putting it on Facebook now. You can see it, public. Okay, it should be.
Oh, I see it. Okay.
You got it? We're live on Facebook now, on YouTube now.
Okay.
Okay. Well, when life happens, you find out how to get around it. I think we're okay. Are we okay, everybody? You saw it, Ashley, on the page?
Yeah, I did.
Perfect. Welcome to RenéMarie Stroke of Luck. When challenges come up, we just fight through it and we get to be successful one way or another. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're so sorry we're a little bit late. We were having technical difficulties on Facebook. It wasn't allowing me to change the audience view and it was private. So I don't know. So we went live on YouTube and we shared the link to Facebook. That's what we do. I don't want to hold back anymore. I'm so happy that you're joining us today. And of course, this show will go on forever. We're going to share it to YouTube and to on the website and on Facebook and social media and all that kind of stuff. Today is a really important show because we have two wonderful, wonderful guests on the show. And they both attended, actually our three guests today, Teresa St. Francis from the second show, joined us at the Unconditional Love concert. And I'm still flying from it. And I can't wait to hear Celeste and Ashley's testimonial or view on it. And because we really wanted to bring joy and love and happiness and peace and healing through that show. And we can't wait to hear someone's outside view of us because we can't think straight since we're still flying. Ashley experienced a stroke. I don't like to say suffered a stroke because when you experience a stroke, it's only one single portion of your life. It's not your entire life. It's not your entire being. And I can't wait to hear her story. She actually was brought to the Unconditional Love concert through Susan Kern. Susan Kern lives in Hawthorne, and actually, thank God that the Chamber of Commerce shared our memo, our flyer that we were having it, and Susan saw it and she invited Ashley and Susan came. So it was extraordinary to have them there. And then we have another very special guest who I connected with my first hat job, the Radburn Association, Celeste. Celeste really blew me away with her show, Crying on the Camino, Celeste.
Yep.
Crying on the Camino. It was an experience that she had journeying through Portugal. Am I right?
Through Portugal to Spain.
Through Portugal to Spain. And Celeste and I met through Art, her husband. And she actually, her husband is the board president at the community I work at. A very dear, gentle soul. He's wonderful. But Celeste, when she did her fundraiser at Radburn, it took me back because, that's my vision for myself is to actually go on tour, fully on tour and to do that. And she's had an extraordinary experience with that and just the storytelling. And she actually wrote it and she acts in it and she sings in it. It's funny, it's sad, it's just really extraordinary. But before she started this show, she actually was a speech pathologist, which ties right into our world. So me, I am an entertainer as well as suffered a stroke, as well as a lifestyle director. So it's just really wonderful the way that we're all coming together and we all were there at the Unconditional Love concert. So thank you so much for joining us. And thank you to Ginny for all the back end work she does on the Stroke of Luck internet TV show and podcast, because without her, we couldn't do it. I always like to give thanks. So without further ado, I'm going to let Ashley share a little bit about her story. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us, both of you. And we're sorry we're a little bit late, but Ashley, tell us a little bit about your story. And then I can't wait to hear from Celeste as well. I love your background, Celeste. It's wonderful. It looks good. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So I wrote down my story so I don't forget
Oh, good.
anything. I said on November 7th, 2023, I had an arterial dissection in my basilar artery, which caused an ischemic stroke. It came completely out of the blue. I did suffer from migraines and headaches, and about a week before my stroke, I had a headache that wouldn't go away. I was traveling to see a friend, but had to cancel her birthday plans because the pain was so bad. No medications helped. After traveling, I returned home and suffered the stroke a couple days later. It began with intense nausea. I vomited and didn't make it to the toilet. That was very unlike me. Thank God my mom was visiting me at the time. Otherwise, the outcome could be very different since I live alone. She helped clean up the bathroom, but I continued to throw up a few more times outside. I laid down in bed thinking I was just sick, but my symptoms kept getting worse. I had a really bad headache and kept vomiting to the point of dry heaving. I was sweating and freezing at the same time. I remember being on the bathroom floor, kind of driving into a pot. I never fainted before, but it felt like the whole world was spinning, and the only way I can describe it, I told my mom that something wasn't right to call 911.
Hmm.
She had to physically help me into bed when the paramedics arrived. I couldn't even open my eyes because my headache was so intense, and at the point my vision was affected. The paramedics took my vitals and said everything looked okay. I wish they had taken me to the hospital at that time. That's one of the biggest regrets I have. I often wonder if my deficits would be different had they done so. It was really hard to accept this. They left. Hours passed. I went to sleep but continued like dry heaving throughout the night. In the morning, my mom gave me toast, thinking it was a migraine. I told her I needed to let my manager know I was not coming into work. She handed me my laptop, but it kept getting the password wrong. Then I tried texting. I couldn't even do that. I was frustrated, so my mom had to do it for me. At the time, I didn't realize this was a neurological issue. I got to the point where I couldn't walk on my own. At 36 years old, my mom had to shower me and wash my hair. I remember sitting on the shower floor because I couldn't even stand up. She helped me get dressed and later told me that I wasn't making sense when I spoke. When she asked where I lived, I gave her my old address. That's when she called 911 again, knowing something was seriously wrong. They took me to the hospital again. I don't remember this at all. I'm actually grateful I don't. Apparently had a CT scan, an angiogram. They performed an emergency craniectomy on me to relieve pressure on my brainstem. When I woke up, I was coming out of a 2-week coma. The first thing I asked my mom was, "Where's Dad? He doesn't care," because I only saw her. He had passed away 3 years earlier. She didn't even want to tell me right away, but the doctor told her it was best to be honest with me. When she did, I remembered everything about his passing and started crying, reliving the grief all over again. I stayed in the hospital for almost a month. The whole time was very blurry. I only remember bits and pieces. I woke up with double vision, faces were warped, and I had to cover one eye just to see clearly. Friends came to visit, including one friend who flew in from Texas with her daughter and stayed a month with me. After nearly a month at St. Clair's, I was transferred to Kessler in West Orange for inpatient rehab. I had occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy, and cognitive therapy every day, except on weekends. During this time, I slept a lot. I couldn't walk on my own at first and went from using a wheelchair to a walker. I still needed the walker when I left Kessler. My mom was by my side every day, all day. Our big outing was going to the Kessler Cafe in my wheelchair and looking at the fish in the tank downstairs. I also missed my pets terribly. That's all I talked about. I have a dog and 2 cats. Eventually, I was able to walk unassisted. I'm still off balance, but I've come a long way. My double vision resolved after a few months with the help of prism glasses. I'm back at the gym now, taking classes, modified, but still showing up. It helps me feel like myself again. I've been through a lot in my 37 years, and I try not to take anything for granted. I focus on living in the moment because tomorrow isn't guaranteed. I'm still doing OT, took a break from PT, but I walk my dog and go to the gym regularly. Recovery is a long, difficult road. I went from being extremely independent to relying on my mom to live with me, drive me, help me with basic tasks. Now I'm back to living independently, walking my 60-pound dog, which was a huge victory for me. I'm driving again and working the same job I had before the stroke. I'm really grateful for how far I've come and the recovery I made so far. And that's my story.
Oh my God. That is, you have really recovered
Yeah.
a lot, and and I could see how emotional you are and how tender you still are and how affected you are. But God, you are a survival story and an inspiration to a lot of people that suffered stroke, because to go from where you were to where you are today, it really shows that there is life after stroke and you can recover. You can
Yeah.
recover. You can
Yeah.
recover physically, you can recover speech wise, you can recover, mentally. It's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard.
It's
It's
very
really
hard.
hard. So thank you for sharing your story.
You're
Um,
welcome.
we're gonna let Celeste share her story of how she started as acting and was a speech pathologist, and then her journey, and then we'll tie it together because I really want to hear, Celeste, how hearing Ashley's story, what you would do with that as a speech pathologist, and how this was my thought process when I was trying to work on the press, is how you use your entertaining in speech pathology, because you probably used some of those tools as an entertainer, as a singer in speech pathology. So tell us your story, Celeste, of what where you are in your life and how you got there.
Okay, before I even share my story, I'm very emotionally affected by Ashley's story because I came on the Zoom today knowing nothing of Ashley. And of course, I see a beautiful girl with such poise,
Yeah.
such excellent articulation in her delivery.
Thank you.
And I'm sort of blown away hearing the history of the onset of your stroke. When I began speech language pathology, my first practicum was at Middlesex Rehabilitation Hospital. And at the time, I was uncertain which avenue I would take in speech pathology, because what people don't realize is it's a vast field and there are so many avenues. It's almost like saying you're a doctor, and then the next question is, well, what kind of a doctor? Because you can go into stuttering and fluency, you can go into working with children with articulation disorders, you can go into
Mm.
the hospital where you're working with laryngectomies and stroke. So I was really just at the beginning of my career. And when working with stroke, I remember the thing that startled me most of all in my young years was realizing that the people before me, my clients, were people with intact, not all of them, but basically intact mental capability, but the output was affected. And I remember thinking, what I'm trying to imagine what a kind of inner prison that is. I don't know if the stroke manifested itself that way to you, but the one patient that I remember most uh, did have intact comprehension and such knowledge, and he was an attorney. And I kept thinking, with all the knowledge in his head, he's having difficulty articulating that a pencil is a pencil. And I remember feeling such tremendous empathy that I thought at the end of all of it, I thought I really couldn't work with, I didn't have the stamina to work with that because I guess being an actress, I had two majors. I would be so empathetic that it would affect me emotionally. And I remember my practicum supervisor telling me, you can't cry when you're working with these people.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was my limited experience with it. And I'm just so impressed to see you as you are today and to see how clearly you can reveal your thoughts and the content. And to move towards me, I
Can I share one thing, Celeste, while
sure.
we're on that, because otherwise I'll forget. What I love about you, Ashley, is you I know that things happen in life for a reason, right?
Yeah.
So like we
Mhm.
couldn't get on Facebook,
Yeah.
we went on YouTube, we
Mhm.
transitioned, right? The
Yeah.
same with you. You wanted to make sure that you told your story correctly, so you wrote it down.
Yeah. Yeah.
We figure out ways to get through life. That life is challenging and difficult, and we
Yeah. It's
figure
very hard.
out ways to get through life. And I love that. I love the fact that you took charge and you said, and you just said, I wrote it down. Like that's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, Celeste. Go ahead, share
That's
your.
okay. And Ashley is actually way beyond me because she was able to navigate the Zoom, which no matter how many times I do Zoom, I can't do it. And I was so impressed that you were able to go live. That's like Greek to me. So you are beyond me, you are. So when I was a young student, from an early age, all I wanted to do was be an actress, singer. My father was a laborer. He struggled financially to put four of us through college. And the notion was you don't go to college without a degree that is definitive in putting you towards a career path. So the deal was I could get a degree in theater arts, but I had to have a separate degree. So it wasn't a speech and theater degree. It was two totally separate majors. So I had a major in speech pathology and I had a major in theater arts. And upon graduating, my intention was to just go off to New York. And then, as life would have it, I was offered a graduate assistantship. And I was wise enough to know that, wow, I should go for my master's in speech pathology because it's all paid for. I came out, I did speech therapy for about 5 or 6 years with the notion that all I wanted to do was save my money so that I could go off to New York and be an actress. And at the time, I saved a whopping $1,000, which in, the late 70s is a great amount of money. And I was off to New York with my $1,000, and that's what started my theater career. And at the time, I worked continually. I had an agent, I had an equity card. Um, then life circumstance that I don't have to go into, but my husband lost his very, very solid job of many years. And I was actually doing Dolly in Hello Dolly. And immediately I had to return to my speech pathology career, or we would have really lost our home and lost our mortgage. So, in a funny way, for the first 2 months, I was doing speech therapy during the day and Hello Dolly at night.
Oh my
But
gosh.
that was an impossible thing to continue. So, the show closed, fortunately. I went back to speech pathology. I did that for 17 years in between. Many people always ask me, if that was if I have regrets about that, or do I bemoan the fact that I had to move off into speech? But it was actually a tremendously enhancing and rewarding career. I ended up going the avenue of speech therapy towards autism. And
Wow.
yes, Renee, I used my theatrical background uh, in a considerable way in working with autism because uh, from a layman perspective, music and a song is in a different area of the brain than language. So many, many times I could focus the attention of the individual with autism by working with song. So we would have greeting songs, we would have, anything in the realm of social skills. I would do little songs about it. Eyes on me, look and see, which is much better than just saying, look at me. And just the cadence and the rhythm would connect to these students. And interestingly, when I began to supervise speech language students, they would use these, oh, I don't sing. You don't have to sing. You just have to make sure that your rhythm changes, that
Mm.
you use elongated vowels at higher pitches, and just rhythmic kinds of things to focus and secure attention. So the last few years, my intention was just finish your speech therapy so that you can get back to theater.
Yeah.
And so let's see, I'm about 65 when I left my speech therapy career, and I started to move back into the theater realm. Started to get jobs. I did Anne Frank in West Virginia. I was cast in Gentleman's Guide. It's just a musical. And right at the time when I was cast in Gentleman's Guide and finally getting back into my love of theater, and COVID hit. And I remember at the time the theater closed, and in, I guess, reflecting all of our naivete, I was like, well, maybe in 1 or 2 months the theater will reopen. And lo and behold, the theater never I mean, it reopened 2 years later. And what happened is I wanted to do something different. I wanted a life change. It's a retirement, a change in life. I wanted an adventure. So two older friends have walked the Camino actually 17 times. The Camino,
Wow.
for those who don't know, the Camino is a series of trails all throughout Europe from many different destinations. All of these trails end at the Cathedral de Compostela in Galicia, Spain. That is where we are all headed. Legend has it that the remains of the Apostle St. James are buried at this site. So a lot of people do it for this religious association. But over the years, it's changed. People do it for the physical challenge, the mental challenge of walking on your own. People do it to be a part of that history. Many reasons. For me, I just wanted a risk and an adventure. But I didn't realize I was with two warrior people who walked continually, never pausing, even at the top of a hill, no change in respiration. Their goal was to walk, so they didn't relish in eating times. So we had very minimal food in terms of my uh, analysis of it, minimal food, horrible sleeping quarters. So as I was walking, I started recording into my phone. They're going to kill me, things, I'm never going to make it. This is ridiculous. Why did I do this? So when I came home, I started to transcribe. There was no intention of writing a show, but I started to transcribe that which I have said into my phone onto paper. And as I saw it formulated on paper, it moved into workshop performances. COVID was still lingering, so I started the show in living rooms, graduating to the library where we had small audiences of 50, then onto churches, then onto theaters. And fortunately, in the last 3 years, I've been in 15 different states, doing my show all over the place, in Spain and in Canada. It's remarkable. At this age, did I ever think I'd be doing a show and traveling all around? And I like to say the saying that pilgrims, you're a pilgrim when you walk the Camino. And the pilgrims say the real Camino begins when the first Camino ends,
Hmm.
which reflects all of the Camino is our way through
Yeah.
life. You
Yeah.
don't have to walk that necessary Camino. You, Renee, Ashley, we all have our own Camino. We all have our own pathway that we're going through. And you don't know where the one journey ends and where it will lead you to. And who would have thought that my walking with a backpack for 200 miles would lead me to writing my own show? So
Wow.
that's basically my story.
Well, that flows right into Ashley. But we'll get back to, I really want to hear a little bit more about your walk, Celeste. And because I know during the show you spoke, you see your steps, and you share with each, pinpoint moment in the walk. But Celeste, and Celeste, Ashley, as Celeste just mentioned that, the Camino, I don't know the exact wording of what Celeste just said, but after you suffer a stroke, you're on a different Camino as well, right?
Yeah,
Right.
you are.
Like it changes your whole life.
Yeah,
It changes
it
your
does.
whole life. So tell us a little bit about your mindset when I know you had asked, you knew that you needed help. You
Yeah,
asked your mom for help.
yeah.
what was going through your mind, and when did it shift that you because I could tell that you have an inner strength about you,
Mm-hmm.
that you were gonna make it,
Yeah.
and that is so important in life, to
Yeah.
have that inner strength. Because when I was an ambassador at one of the hospitals, and I'd go into stroke rooms, what they wanted me to share with the patients was that they really had to do it. We had to. I mean, you can have doctors around, you can have people, you can have everybody, but if you don't have that inner strength to help you and to want to get there,
Yeah.
you can't. So share a little bit about.
So I feel like, I mean, the stroke took a lot away from me. It affected my right side, which is on my dominant side. I used to like paint and draw, and I loved doing makeup before. So in the early days of recovery, I was like really hard on myself. I used to cry a lot and be like I used to be like, why does this happen to me? Like things like that. So going forward, I feel like you have to accept what happened. And it's kind of like when you accept it, then I don't think I was making recovery in the beginning, but once you accept it, it's kind of like, okay, I might have to like go into the gym, for example. I might have to modify things, kind of make it work for you. Um, and like walking my dog, I was like, oh my God, I'm so nervous. But walking her, I'm like, okay, we can do this, Luna. We can make it. We can do it, taking my dog for a walk. And I had like my mom with me or a friend with me at first. But I feel like it was really hard to accept because you kind of like grieve the person you were before and you're so different afterwards. Um, but yeah, like I'm still working on myself. So I feel like the biggest thing too is like putting the work in and working on ourselves. I'm still going to OT. I'm still doing PT. Um, and like I'm working full time again. It's kind of like when I was in disability for 6 months during my stroke.
Mhm.
Um, it's kind of like I felt like I didn't have a purpose. So going back to work, I felt like I had a purpose. I'm like, okay, yeah, I have a purpose in life. It kind of makes you feel like you have a purpose. So
Mhm.
like going back to things you're used to before, like little by little, you kind of feel like, okay, you know, I'm kind of going back to my old ways.
That's good. So what was the moment that you said, okay, when you accepted it, because I guess sometimes stroke patients, like with anybody that has a major change in their life, they don't
Yeah.
want to let go. I was just listening to Mel Robbins yesterday. She's got a great podcast out,
Yeah.
and her book is let go, let
Hmm.
go.
Yeah.
And I guess we all have to let go,
Yeah.
to be able to that new journey, that new road we're on.
Yeah.
Um, so you're incredible, and I think I believe that part of your purpose is really to be an example for those that are suffering strokes. I mean, strokes happen to the major cause that is number one in disabilities,
Yeah. Yeah.
which it causes. So
Hmm.
it's sad, but with people like you be an example and coming on this show and
Hmm.
saying to people like, this is what happened to me, but
Yeah.
look, I'm okay, and I'm
Yes.
back to work, and I am. So
Yeah.
it's a wonderful story, and maybe write it down, maybe publish it, maybe
Yeah.
put your story out there so that
Okay.
people could read it, and you're
Mhm.
part of our family. We'll definitely, use your story as, you know, hope for people, hope for stroke patients, and not only for stroke patients, but hope for families.
Yeah.
Because talk about your family, on the back end, watching you go through this. I'll never
Yeah.
forget. I'll never forget. I mean, this is vivid in my brain, is laying in the bed in the emergency room and not being able to speak and seeing my
Yeah.
father at the foot of the bed,
Yeah.
in really devastated, because
Mhm.
his mom had lost three sons. So I could just see in his eyes, am I going to be going through this? Am I
Yeah.
going to be going through this? And I've had a lot of dear friends that have lost children, and it's devastating. It's devastating.
Yeah.
them. So to share a little bit about your family, and then we're going to get back to Celeste
Yeah.
on the Camino, because I think that's such a and actually when we put the show together, we never thought of the tie with the Camino and the what the Camino means. So share a little bit about your family.
So I don't really have a big family. So I have my mom and my brothers in Nevada. But my mom was there, like she was visiting me. She lived in Florida. I'm in New Jersey. And she said seeing me like in the bed in a coma was one of the hardest things in her life to deal with. And she was there like every day. If they let her sleep at the hospital, she was there sleeping. My really close friends came to visit me. So it's kind of like your friends are your family too. Like I have really good friends
Yeah.
who I've known one friend since second grade. She's like family to me. My friend Jeff and Patty, they're like family to me. My friend who came from Texas, Alex, who came with her one daughter because she's married and they live there and she has two daughters. So she stopped her life to come over and see me. And my friend Nicole was there too. Um, but yeah, it's like they might not be blood, but I consider them family and they were always there for me.
Wow, that's
Yeah, you
incredible.
kind of like see who's there in the hard times. Um, but yeah, yeah,
Mm, that's wonderful. Yeah, sometimes it's not your family, sometimes it's loved ones. You
yeah,
know, we're all family in life. That's my thought patterns. We're all one big happy family. Well, one big family that
yeah.
are really trying to survive. We all
Yeah.
have our own stories,
Mhm.
and yours is incredible. Celeste, talk to us a little bit about like when you were writing this Crying on the Camino, what was your intention as powerful as the show is? I don't think that I think I hope that people book you and book you and book you because you have a message to give to everybody. And what would be that message? What's that message that you want people to get from the show?
Oh, there's so many different things. Um, First of all, in writing it, it's interesting you say when you wrote it, did you know how, basically, to paraphrase, did you know how powerful it was going to be? And no, I just started it as a 30-minute piece in a workshop class and had no plan of really writing a play, so to speak. My teacher slash director at the time said to me, it's easy to write about the humor and the horror of the trip because that is foremost. But if you don't develop an arc and come to some kind of a uh, inner reflection of what was going on, you will not have a fully realized piece. And I truly don't remember the development of it. Friends have said, well, oh, did you every night at 7 o'clock write for an hour? Were you really structured? And I guess it all came together without a plan. It's hard for me to even imagine how it formulated. But I do recall one day reading the Beatitudes of the Camino. The Beatitudes are the blessings that different pilgrims, and as I mentioned before, you earn the title of pilgrim when you walk the Camino. Different pilgrims have written these Beatitudes. And I must say that when your intention is solely to walk without distraction for 11 days in a row, something happens with the free flow of consciousness and with the added experience of total exhaustion that frees up your way of thinking. So these Beatitudes are quite beautiful. And in reading them, I started to realize that they would easily insert into my piece. For lack of a better phrase, it was almost like the end of each scene came with an inner reflection because it is a story. I tell the story. I emulate the characters on the trail, but there is always a time when I'm more of a muse, where I'm considering what's going on internally, and those are the beatitude moments. Um, and just listening to Ashley and you, Renee, today, I start to think that these Beatitudes that end each scene might be something that's interesting to share. Um, the first Beatitude involves us coming to a river that we can't see anything. And my hiking companion said, "Oh, this would be so beautiful if only we could see it." And at the time, I thought that was the most ridiculous thing in the world. But later, I wrote the Beatitude, "Blessed are you, pilgrim, if you can." Oh, no, I can't even remember it. Um, Blessed are you, pilgrim, if, oh, or what is
Just
it?
give the intention of it. You don't have to
So
remember.
anyway, if, okay, blessed are you, pilgrim, if you can anticipate beauty,
Mm,
things that are not seen, is
mm,
basically the
mm,
message. And I'm thinking in terms of your journey with the stroke, you could never possibly see what was coming before you. But if you can sort of imagine it, you can imagine the beauty in what is to come, the things that you cannot see. And the other one that comes to mind is blessed are you, pilgrim. It's hard because I know the show so much in sequence. Blessed are you, pilgrim, to know that though you walk on foreign soil, the Camino and those with whom you have shared it are yours forever. And in a sense, Ashley and you are walking on foreign soil as
Mhm.
you experience what the stroke has altered in you.
Yeah.
And then the final beatitude, blessed are you, pilgrim, if you can ballast yourself in reality and then throw yourself into the sea. The
mm,
sea is inspiration.
mm,
Because if you can, and you are starting, each of you, after the stroke, you are rooted in the reality of what's happened to you,
Mhm.
and you ballast yourself in that, but then you almost have to throw away everything and go into this new journey,
Mhm.
working, as you said, Ashley, mourning the person that you used to be.
Mhm.
I will have to share with you, Renee, a fellow speech therapist, actress, similar to me, suffered a stroke and wrote a book that I've read and is very powerful. And so I definitely,
share it with,
I can't remember the name of it.
okay. Share it
Um,
with me, and I'll post it and I'll
yes,
post it and listen to it.
definitely. And you,
We could definitely invite her to be on the show. We can all come back and have a continued.
her name is Lauren Marks. I know that. Her name is
Okay.
Lauren Marks. And I found the story so powerful.
Mm.
And so now I've gone so tangential, I can't remember, Renee, what your actual
No, no, no. But
was,
what
but
I was thinking was, and this is how, my stroke happened many, many, many years ago. And I always try to stay, Celeste knows this because I've had conversations with you, Celeste, about always remembering what happened to me so that I always stay in gear of what my actual purpose is.
Yeah.
It's hard, when you get down the road, to always remember.
Mhm.
But God reminds me all the time because, like my right side, the same as you, my
Yeah.
right side is off balance and stuff.
Mhm.
And that's my internal thing where I really have to always remember my purpose, and my purpose
Yeah.
is to bring hope to people and bring joy to people, and I love to
Mhm.
do it through entertainment. But what I was going to say was I always try to live by faith, not by sight. Live
Mhm.
by faith, not by sight. Sometimes you don't see what's in front of you, but you got to keep pushing to get those the happiness and the joys, and you have to look in the little moments. You have to revel in those things that you do right now, like you said, you would accomplish one thing and you're joyous about that, you're happy, you're proud of yourself, which is a wonderful thing to be able to acknowledge that, because sometimes stroke patients, and I know this only because I've interviewed millions and hundreds, but sometimes they aren't able to understand that. We go back to the comprehension that Celeste was talking about. Sometimes they don't get that comprehension back, so it's really hard for them. I always try to say on my show and stuff, please help me to bridge that gap between a stroke patient that can't understand what they need to successfully recover,
Mhm.
because recovery, it takes that positive attitude. Recovery takes, that work that we need to do on our own, but sometimes they don't have that ability to do that. So how do we bridge that gap? Because those people that are in the middle, that they can't do that, that's what I have compassion for. Because like, sometimes when we meet somebody that we don't know, and they're not able to speak clearly to us, sometimes we go to the negative about them, and it's not, sometimes they don't have the capability of doing that. So it's really very, very challenging for those. So I want everybody to remember that sometimes when you meet somebody, you have to walk by faith, not by sight, and just hope that everything is okay in their lives and stuff. Celeste, so what I love about your show, one of the things, and actually what I'm thinking now is maybe we'll do a fundraiser. We'll pay you, but we'll do a fundraiser as well. Because it's this, your show is bigger than just doing it for audiences. It really brings healing and recovery to people, to understand that Camino walk, understand the purpose behind it, but what I love about your show, one of the things is how you said this before, the beatitudes or the blessings, that you do your show and then you go off to the podium and you make us reflect. You make us talk about what you just showed us, the example of it. It was very, very powerful, very, very powerful. And you're doing it in close by, because I posted it
Yes,
on.
I do have a local one coming up, which is really nice in terms of this podcast being very relevant. But I will be at the Williams Center in Rutherford, Spring Hall, but it's the Williams Cultural Center in Rutherford on August 13th, Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. So if you go to the Williams Center, you'll see it, and you'll see it on my Facebook page.
And I put it in the press as
But I
well.
have to say, as a theatrical experience, it has really been so overwhelmingly rewarding in a different way. Prior to this, you might hear people say, "Oh, you're so funny," or "You sing so well." But when people come and say to me, "When you said this, it made me think of this," that is a whole different form of reinforcement, to know that my words are resonating with the people in the audience, that my experience is becoming their experience. That's very powerful
Mm,
and hard to really explain.
mm.
Um, if
Well,
it exists for you, then it exists for the audience.
yeah, what you shared it yourself is, at the end of the Camino was really the beginning of the Camino, right? The new walk. We have a few more minutes, because I told Teresa we're going to be a little bit late in starting her show. We're just going to take a few more minutes. But what did I want to say? I wanted to say, I shouldn't have said about Teresa. I wanted to say that I really want you to share a few moments, closing the show, of where we're going now, what you're doing now, and and your visions for the next, few years, for how to bring healing. I know, Celeste, yours has got to be to really get booked in the Camino, but there's so many things you can do. Do you have any other visions for yourself?
I think they're more personal, my visions. Um, it's the Camino questions are: who am I? Where have I been? Where am I going? Who have I been? Really reflecting on that, um, reflecting on how I have conducted my life up to this point, and not just the examples of the past, but moving towards being better, to be better in different aspects of your life. I mean, that's the most simple way that I can explain the end, which
Mm,
was very powerful, um, and really more of a spiritual awareness that came to me at the end.
mm. Hopefully that younger people, because I'm 63 myself, so that they understand that this is not something about seniors or about elderly people, older people, sharing, okay, I did everything in my life and now, it really is important for all ages to understand that life is short. Look at Ashley when
Mm-hmm.
she suffered her stroke. I
Yeah.
suffered a stroke at the age 26. In one split second,
Yeah.
we can't be
Mhm.
here anymore. And
Yeah.
I always try to make people understand that in our teachings, and so that they know that life is a gift.
Mhm.
That's the last line in my, Stroke of Luck book. Life is a gift. You have to really understand that, and be kind to everybody, because you don't know what they're going through, what they're
Mhm.
going through. I think that's really important. Actually, what's on your vision board? What I mean, you're really you're starting your Camino now, you know.
Yeah.
So I want to share with you, anytime you need anything, please don't hesitate to reach
Thank
out.
you. Thank you.
You're part
Appreciate
of the
that.
family now. So, whatever you need, if you
Thank you.
want to hang out with us, you want to, bring joy, you like whatever you need, we're here. We're here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Ashley,
Um,
wonderful meeting you.
Thank you too.
Wonderful meeting you. And your quote makes me think of my quote, my favorite, which is be kind.
Yeah.
Everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you are and are succeeding.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I feel like for my future, I would love to make a difference, even if it's one person's lives. Um, and be kind. Just like be kind to everyone. Yeah, but I was saying, like, if I can make a difference in one person's life and be kind of like a role model for someone, that's all that matters.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But you have a shining light. Doesn't she have a shining light through her eyes, Celeste?
Oh, yeah. Like I said, I know nothing of your background. I'm seeing this poised, put together, beautiful person.
Thank you.
Wow, do you have a story to tell?
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because, like, a lot of people say, like, they're like, okay, you look like the same person you were before the stroke. I'm like, yeah, like, I'm glad I look the same, but it's like I'm so different now.
Mhm.
Yeah, like, I feel like life is a gift because my stroke came out of the blue. I could have died. Like, it's kind of like that's why I try to live in the moment. I try not to look, things happen in the past. I don't like to look in the future because I'm like, I want to live right now because tomorrow is like guaranteed.
I always there's a family member, stroke. Maybe you've heard of him, Ralph
Mhm.
Cortellessa. He's
Mhm.
on he's Facebook friend, and I met him, and he comes on the show, co-hosts the show and stuff. I always we came up with the word while he was on the show one day: urgency,
Yeah.
urgency.
Yeah.
That we live with an urgency
Yeah.
because our life flashed before our eyes,
Mhm.
and we have an urgency. What I've learned with a mentor of mine who I used to work in another community, was a
Mhm.
board president in that community as well, Dominic Cortellessa, is that I had to tone down my urgency.
Mhm.
I had to tone it down to speak
Mhm.
regular language to everybody, because I used to be up here going, I can do this. It's like, oh, I can't take it. Like, they used to block me out. So I had to learn. And you already got that. You already got the poise. Like, I'm like, wow, it took me like 20 years to get poise. And you handle yourself so well. Like Celeste said, it's just incredible. So, do videos, we're telling you, you have the capability of do videos, short videos like Maddie and Nicole. They do
Yeah.
short videos every
Yeah.
day, live videos and stuff, just to tell your story, and just,
Yeah.
it's incredible. You're a blessing. You really are doing a wonderful job. So
Thank
thank you for
you.
coming on the show today. I know that it was a Sunday morning, and you, Celeste, to you as well. And I hope that everybody, joins, follows both of them. Celeste, share with them where they could follow you on your website and on your Facebook page. I think she froze.
Oh.
Ashley, you're on Facebook as well, right?
Yeah. Under Facebook, I'm under Ash Rec, REC.
Ash Rec.
Yeah,
You friended me, right?
I did. Yes.
Good, perfect.
Mhm.
So we can connect and always. And thank you to Susan Kern.
Karen, yes.
She popped off for connecting us. And thank you, Celeste.
Yeah,
You
thank
froze, and I know you had to hop off, but we want to thank you for being up. Here she is.
you.
Oh, here we are again.
That's okay. Yeah, life happens, right?
Yeah.
But that's why these things don't bother me, when things
Mhm.
happen, because that's what life is about, right?
Yeah.
Life is about changes,
Mhm.
challenges,
Yeah,
getting in the way and all that kind of stuff.
things
So
happen.
I'm going to let you both do your goodbyes, and then I will close out. So let's give a little goodbye to everybody. Thank you. Where they can follow you on Facebook and on your website, so that they could see where you're doing your show next.
Okay, the website is crycamino.com. Not crying, crycamino.com. And Ashley, come see my show.
I will. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah, we could go together to the August show if you
Oh,
want.
yeah.
We'll
Yeah,
go
let's do
together to
that.
the August show.
Yeah.
And Renee, thank you for this. This is a wonderful way to start the morning.
Yes, well, you deserve it, Celeste. I always, people that I really believe in, I want to support them in any way that I can to get their story out and their information out, because and I honestly believe that I'm in the place that I am in my life, and I'm talking about working for Radburn, to meet people, to I wouldn't have met you if I didn't work in Radburn. So it's just a blessing. That's a small blessing. That's one of the things that I've learned. There's so many people I'm learning so many things from. And I am a watcher. I always try to watch how people navigate through things and learn. I'm always absorbing to learn how to better myself through my life, because just I want people to be kind to one another, and I know Celeste does too, and you as well, Ashley. Ashley, give your final words to everybody.
Yeah, thank you for having me on the show. Just say, yeah, treat life like a gift, because it is a gift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Celeste, if you can connect me with your friend who had a stroke, we'd love
Right.
to have her back on. And I'd love to invite you both to be on that show, so we can continue this conversation, because we're never done, right? We're lucky we're never done. We're never done. So thank you so much both for joining us today. We're going to close out. Thank you so much. Stay tuned. I have the Teresa St. Francis, and actually it continues this conversation, because the title to the show is In the Moment, In the Moment. And Teresa really has a gift. And I can't wait for everybody to experience her gift, and as we continue this conversation. So thank you so much for joining us. Have a blessed Sunday, and enjoy the moments. Life is a gift, right? Thank you so much, everybody. Oh, on 3, we always blow kisses if you feel comfortable. 1, 2, 3. Bye, everybody.